Welcome to episode 23 of the Creative Train podcast. In this episode, I welcome acclaimed artist Roger Guetta from Montreal, Canada. Roger has spent his life in the arts, from classical theater to improv, poetry, performance, photography, and teaching in the liberal arts. Roger composed a montage of his favorite digital photography works for you, which you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube or on your device. Today, Roger and I discuss the motivations and passions in all things creative that not only keep us afloat emotionally, but keep us vital and relevant as creators. So stay tuned for an inspiring, lighthearted, and entertaining conversation with my friend, Roger Guetta. And as I said, folks, I'm really excited to welcome my friend Roger Guetta to the Creative Train podcast today. He's quite a guy. I came to know Roger through a photography group, a mobile photography group that we both belong to. And and then I just started really digging his art. And a friendship blossomed from there, as sometimes they do with good things on social media. So how are things today, Roger?
Great. I just want to add a little something about our meeting and the wonders of social media is that not only did you dig my work, but I did write a poem which you were, interested in, and somehow I think you suggested that we could collaborate and you can put music to it, and we did. Yeah. And you narrated it and put your music to it, and we published it. And then that, and for me, that's a treasure.
I'll put a link in the comments section to the YouTube thing. Yeah. And I think we've earned a total of like 47 cents so far on all the streams.
Oh, well, monetizing art is not...
it's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, and it's never been one of my main concerns, but if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, it's better than trying to, hawk cassette tapes of it on the sidewalk or something.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to buy a tape?
Yeah. There's a funny story with that, is that when I went... when I was teaching, the beauty of teaching is that you get months off, right? Mm-hmm. And towards the end of my tenure there, I would go to California for 2 or 3 months in the winter.
Nice.
And the first time I went to Venice Beach, I was kind of cornered by someone who was trying to sell me a cassette. And, I felt, I like to support artists. So I gave him a 20. Yeah. And oh my God, when I gave him that 20, it was like 5 or 6 guys rushed me because, usually I guess they get $2 or something like that. Yeah. And so I was a big shot at that moment.
Nice. Yeah. So you were talking about when you were teaching. What can you tell us what you were teaching and where you were teaching?
Yeah. Well, Quebec has a system called the CEGEP system. Mm-hmm. That's an acronym. I don't even know what it stands for, but it's students get snatched away from high school earlier, and it's a 2-year program, pre-university program, and it mimics university. So it's like professors and students, and they take courses, they choose their department and their area of expertise, and we teach it like a university.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I was the head of the theater department, and what was nice about it is that it wasn't the theater department wasn't a full structured theater program. It was part of a communications program where the students, when they went into this program, took a little bit of fine arts, a little bit of photography, a little bit of media studies, a little bit of theater, kind of a well-rounded liberal education. Mm-hmm. And so I would get all sorts of students, not necessarily the ones that wanted to be actors, I did have those, but I had.
You wanted a bird course, right?
Yeah. A lot of them took a, Mickey Mouse course or whatever whatever it was. But I tried to teach it as more of a life knowledge of life, of its ups and downs, how to navigate it. That's rather really cool. Than using theater methods.
So not necessarily Shakespearean or classical theater.
And we did touch upon that. We touched upon everything, but not geared for people that wanted to pursue an acting career.
So it's kind of like
there were other CJEPs like Dawson who had a full 3-year program, a theater program. So they did all sorts of, voice courses and all sorts of courses. But I was mainly teaching in that course. And, we put on plays. We did all sorts of incredible things.
It's interesting when you were saying that about the, about teaching kids just about life and navigating and stuff, that it sort of touches on psychotherapy in a way at that point as well.
I don't know if it goes that far, but it goes to the holisticness of being, a person. So we did relaxation exercises, stretching exercises, scene studies, improvs, all sorts of things.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So that they can all kind of like support each other, have fun within certain parameters.
Yeah, I get that with certain music students. Now, my music classes are generally one-on-one private studio situations, but it's interesting that when something creative, when something artistic gets involved, some people's walls go right up and some people's walls come crashing right down.
Right.
And there's been a few really amazing moments where, for 30 minutes, I've had a kid just confide in me. And this one girl, she was having just a terrible time, and I'm not laughing at that. But she said, have you ever heard of the term therapy friend? And I said, no, I haven't. And she said, it's that one friend that you can talk to. And I was thinking that she was going to say that she spent the day with her therapy friend. And she goes, you're my therapy friend now. I said, I'm very honored, and you can feel very safe with whatever was discussed here. It's not going any further.
Yeah, rather than a BFF, you're a BTF.
Therapy friend. But I thought that was nice, because it's like, it's different, if you're teaching athletics or something like that, there is that sense of camaraderie and the need to, work together and stuff. But when it's something creative and artistic, it's different. And I don't even know how to put my finger on it.
My teaching methods were, if I was going to describe it in any way, it would be a kind of maverick style. So high school kids coming into my classroom for the first time, after the first class, I think I had about 70% who either hated me or didn't fucking get me, or just like, what the, and then, but there were 30% that were so enthusiastic. There was a fresh approach.
That's great.
To learning, so that eventually, that 30% guided, convinced, cajoled, I don't know what, but that 70% became like 20%. When they got it, when I said fun within parameters, is that, like I told them first class, it's going to be fun. And the administration doesn't know that.
That's why we keep the door closed.
Yeah, I actually went to the door, opened it up, looked outside, closed it, and said, "Oh, great! The administration is not walking around."
Nice.
Yeah, and nice. I said,
"It's great that you had that latitude."
Yeah. Total autonomy. It was great. Yeah.
So when you were talking about like the, you do some improv and you would touch on classical things, and part of it was life navigation. Do you have like a process that you like to go through with that? Like how you kind of like parse certain personalities in the classroom in your mind and know how to treat them or handle them or conduct yourself with them? Do you have a personal teaching process that way?
Like in all my processes and, throughout my life, I started basically in fine arts, and since that time and getting into theater and film, I always kept up my visual thing, and process is very important. And what I try to embed in the students is you have to fall in love with the process. And I try to explain to them what the process is. Now, my process is to teach by example, right? So I'm telling them I'm going to be authoritative. I'm not going to be authoritarian, which you're used to probably. And that is taking a big risk. So, meaning, I'm going to give you a lot of latitude. I'm very liberal. I'm free spirited. So you can't take advantage of that. You know what I'm saying is that you have to stay within the parameters of the fun being within the structure of the exercise. You can't go and start laughing and gossiping and doing all sorts of outside of that. That basically the process for me was always keep my mind quiet in the sense of non-judgmental. And when the mind is quiet, it's able to observe very, very minute details, nuanced details. And I react the way I react. Sometimes I'm cynical, sometimes and at times I would tell them, because of my cynicism, I would say, look, my humor is so off the wall that you can't take offense to it. It's too off the wall, Even if
I have a filter, but it's pretty coarse. So when did you realize about this necessity to have that latitude and levity in your class? Were you as a teacher earlier in your career, were you like
No.
Did you try to be like the model strict teacher, or
No.
were you just Professor Guetta from the start, Guetta from the get-go?
Yeah,
It was a good one.
It wasn't my passion to be a teacher. I just fell on it,
Really?
Oh my God, yeah! I was fine arts. The trajectory of my life is very interesting because I started off. I'm not going to go back to being born across the street from the pyramids, but that's where I was born, right?
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
not across the street, but definitely in Cairo, and then
That's cool.
from Cairo, we emigrated to Montreal during the Suez Crisis. I was a little French kid, right? Because, we spoke French in Cairo. The French taught the common man, and the English taught the elites in Egypt at that time. And when I came to Canada, in Quebec, the educational board were split into the Catholic school board and the Protestant school board. So my parents took me, and the Catholic school board were French. So they brought me to the Catholic school board. When they found that I was Jewish, they went, So I was flung into the Protestant school board. I was the only French kid in that school. There weren't even any teachers that spoke French. So for the first 7 years of my life was just trying to get a grip on the sports, like baseball, football, all this stuff. All my friends coming with bologna sandwiches for lunch, and my mother was sending me with pain au chocolat.
Oh, nice.
So I was made fun of and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, high school and then college, I was a business major.
Wow.
Yeah. I went to Europe with a friend and a couple of friends, but that one friend made it a point to go to all the museums in every country. And for some reason, when I saw the statue of David in Florence, my heart went boom. I don't know what happened, but my life changed. I went out the next day, I bought some sketchbooks and charcoals, and I started sketching.
Wow.
Yeah. And I came back to Montreal and I switched from business administration to fine arts.
That's quite a different brain process between those two.
Absolutely. But
Wow.
so that's and then since then I've had a life in the arts. So this one kid comes into my sculpture class, and he's doing his theater thesis, and he's doing a play, and he says, anybody want to audition? So I went, auditioned, got the part, and fell in love with theater now. You know, the camaraderie, the whole process of creating together as a cooperative, and having beers, and just yucking it up. It was great.
That's great.
So then I got into the theater. I went to I got a gig in Toronto. I started my own theater on Queen Street West.
Cool. What was that called?
Cafe Soho.
Just in case anybody's listening who might know of it.
Yeah, it was on top. It might not be recognizable, but it was on top of the Rivoli. And they would know the Rivoli, and next door to the Horseshoe Tavern, which is very popular.
Yeah.
So, and then I met someone, and we started doing projects. We made films. We made 2.5 hours, full feature. We shot it, and but it's a long story. But at the editing phase, things went bad, and it never got completed. Yeah.
Wow.
So the reason I'm telling you the story is that I came back to Montreal after kind of like just using up all my Visa cards and everything, and not making that movie come true. I came back to Montreal with my tail between my legs, and moved back with my parents. Oh my God! At around 28, 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
And about 6 months later, a guy called me who had seen a play at my theater and said, "There's a position open at Vanier College. You want to come?" And I went, and I got the job.
Nice. And that was that was the beginning of your teaching career.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I remember, watching the movie Amadeus, and Mozart was, having trouble with trying to find students, because he said, Mozart of all people couldn't get a performance gig, right? He's like, what am I going to do without students? What am I going to do? I was touching on the topic of imposter syndrome in a previous podcast, and as well as with Cassie. And this line goes through my head so often, and I can't even remember where I first heard it, but there's like, those that cannot do teach, and those that cannot teach write about it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, here I am. I'm in my 31st year of teaching music in a private session, right? And I perform and I record and all that kind of stuff. And then,
which is very important.
And then I'm starting the podcasting, and I'm scripting things, and I'm going, oh my God, now I'm writing about it.
Yeah. Well,
so
man, Mark, you're a doer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing, I think is really important with creativity, is that, the artistic mind doesn't have to have a mono focus. Exactly. I mean, if you're motivated, like you were saying, all the things that you went through before you started teaching, directing and business and all the rest of those things, and you can't keep an artistic mind shackled. I also do glass. I don't draw worth a shit, but I still try sometimes. There's other things that I like to do that I'm not good at, but I need to do something different.
Yeah. And another thing, Mark, it's important to hone these activities, because at one point, I am retired. I'm 73 years old I consider my brain to be a fresh 20-year-old with much more knowledge than a 20-year-old, but still as fresh. And hey, I have my art. I have my art that I produce every day, and it's a great thing to keep whatever, alternative, creative stuff that you like to do. Just keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. And now, really, now in my retirement years, they're the best years of my life. I mean, I dug teaching. It was a dream job. I mean, not only was it amazing, it was like a 15-hour work week. 5 classes, 3 hours each. I mean, okay, preparations and all that. Yeah. But 3.5 months off summer, a month and a half off winter. Come on. That's a great job. Yeah.
I've had some students, when they have, frustrating moments, and I repeat myself for the third or fourth time trying to coach them through a move or a sequence of something. And they're looking down and they go, "Oh, you must hate this job." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
Right.
I have what, in my opinion, the coolest job in the world. I go to work for 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I play music. I'm writing songs about going potty with little kids who they're so enamored with the instrument. Once they realize they can write a song about going pee in the snow, and it's not, they don't even realize they're learning at that point. They don't realize it. They're honing their rhythm. They're honing their changes and stuff because they're repeating. They're not repeating something that's boring and not interesting.
Well, that's when we were at our most susceptible to learning, is when we were very, very young, when we had no judgment. We just kind of absorbed. Mm-hmm. And that's something, that's a really, really thing that's close to my heart, and that I want to kind of transfer, and I've wanted to, and I've done to students, is what is it exactly that you need to work on so that you're constantly inspired?
Yeah.
People are, say, how do you find inspiration? Well, inspiration is in everything,
It is, and it takes a very good eye and a very open mind to see those things and to see them as worthy. So when you were talking about other fine arts and sculptures, now we're just audio here, but I can see on your wall behind you prints. Are those your works there?
Oh, yeah. That was from my... Go on.
No, I was going to say, I'm not going to ask you to spill the beans on anything, but when I see your stuff coming up, I follow you on Facebook, I see your daily postings.
Yeah.
And I look at these things and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's either a genius or a maniac or a little bit of both. Where does this stuff come from? And it's not AI, because I've seen your stuff since pre-AI, so I know you're not.
No. I never use AI. No.
Yeah, I did a little bit for. Oh. But it's not for creativity purposes.
Yeah,
but.
No. It's great for editing. You feed it your. An idea or an idea for a podcast, let's say, and it'll generate some interesting ideas that you can use, things like that. Yeah.
So, in looking at some of the stuff that you do, I know, if people click the link for the poem that you wrote, and I put the music to,
right.
There's I at first, if I look at it as just a viewer. If I don't look at your work as an artist, your visual work, I should say. If I look at it as just a guy, right? There's a bleakness to it. It's not like a bleakness as in something negative or evil or anything like that. But I guess it's the starkness and the there's levels in it that either draw you in out of curiosity or repel you because it's too complex to look at. And I've sat there sometimes when you sent me that one in Messenger last, it looked like somebody holding a guitar type of instrument. I was on my phone and I was looking at that and I was like zooming in and in and in. I go, okay, there's got to be some secret message in here that keeps me looking. It's like, did you put like something subliminal in your art?
No, it's a badass musician.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So it's like,
okay,
how do you do that? When we're talking about process, and recognizing that there is a process that should be adhered to a degree, like where does this stuff come from? Like what's going on in your mind when you do this? Do you have a seed idea, or do you just take a picture of something and just start editing the heck out of it?
Back to the quiet mind. Mm-hmm. The quiet mind affords me intense observation. Okay, so I'm not much of a thinker. I think only when I have to solve problems. Okay, I observe. I observe people. I observe architecture when I'm out. I observe trees. Seriously observe. So that allows the subconscious to absorb all these textures and machinations of life. Right now, I've done that and I've honed it and practiced it for maybe about 30 years.
Wow!
And it's taken me that amount of time to have a non-judgmental mindset. Now, because I'm schooled in perspective and color and composition, I can take interesting pictures, frame them interestingly. I go up to people and I take a portrait of them.
Oh, nice.
And I take their email and I send them the portrait reworked. Okay, so I am a person who has a bank of symbolism, references, ancient stuff, modern stuff, pop stuff, all kind of in my brain, right? And I've also taken thousands and thousands of pictures. So I have a bank of pictures in my camera roll. Now, when I say camera roll, is that for the last 12 years, all my work is exclusively done on an iPad or iPhone.
When you told me that, when I asked you that before, I was like, no way.
Yeah, way. Yeah.
That's why I was meaning. I'm not going to ask you to spill the beans on the process because then, somebody's going to come out with the Guetta filter for their things. And suddenly...
No, there's no such thing as a filter. It's when the iPhone came out and the camera was usable, okay, enough pixels. There are a bunch of wonderful, interesting, creative people that developed apps. Mm-hmm. That developed apps like blurring apps, extensions of Photoshop, but each app had its specific role, right? Mm-hmm. So my main app that I use is called Image Blender, and it blends. So I play Russian roulette with my not Russian roulette, just roulette with my camera roll until it stops at something. Okay, and I go, oh, okay. I have a bank of textures that I've taken. Everything is in files, right? So it's not that I start off with an idea. I always say I come from love. I come from trying to express interesting ideas and try to connect with the collective subconscious. I know that what I feel and what I see on a positive level can connect with a lot of people, not the majority.
Right.
Okay. So if I can communicate something that someone can feel the references that I've made and the mythology that I've kind of like
conjured
up.
Yeah.
That's magic.
Yeah.
That's And because I've been doing photography since the analog days.
Right, which is harder to blend photos in analog.
Well, I've always been a manipulator. So even in the analog days, I would
Master editor.
Yeah. I would create black and white images, but I would paint over them with food dyes.
Oh, wow.
Thinned out food dyes.
Where, on the negative or on the photo?
No, on the print itself.
Okay.
So I would color it, and it would have this really kind of out-of-worldly feel.
Yeah, okay? You just can't leave anything alone.
No. And then I got
I'm the same way. I'm sure if ADHD existed when we were children, we would have been labeled a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I've been into the experimental world. I just like in theater, it's always been the experimental, the absurdists, the Dadaists, everything that kind of like went to the bone, to the spiritual machinations of life, dug deep, and these maverick creators. Some of them, like you say, would look at a play or, like you say, look at my work and go, it's too difficult, or it's
like jazz.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people get turned off of jazz, is because it demands a certain level of listener participation.
Yeah.
I mean, with so much of it based in improvisation and it literally stretching the bounds of what is acceptable as rhythm and harmony.
Right.
And that's kind of like, like when I it's like, when I mention your art, I mean, it takes a certain amount of curiosity, which is, I think, a mark of somebody's intellectual willingness or openness, to be able to sit and look at it and think about it. Because you did a gallery show a while back, right?
Yeah.
When was that? I remember seeing your posts about that, but you're in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's quite a ways away from me. So
the stuff behind me are these large 30 by 60 images on plexiglass.
Oh, cool.
And it's really and I've showed around the world. I've had a one-man show in Paris, which is like, oh my God. I mean, actually, someone tracked me on social media and invited me to their gallery in Paris. Okay,
when was that?
That's the magic of social media.
When was that?
That was about 7-8 years ago.
So that was fully in your digital phase.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was my first trip to Paris. I had to go. And
did you get a beret?
Yeah. I'm wearing kind of.
Is that it?
No, but
Roger has a very spanking looking hat on right now. If you're wondering what we're talking about.
Yeah. And not to brag, but I've had shows in LA. I've had shows in Toronto.
That's not bragging. That's one of the things that I want people listening to this to know, because for so many people that are motivated by taking on a new hobby or elevating their hobby to perhaps a level of job, maybe do an art show here and there. I want people to know that there's like regular, normal people living among them who make a living in the arts. And that was the thing with Cassie Noble, my guest on the previous episode. She's just in her early 30s. And she's not one of those, Instagram or TikTok influencer types who's out there doing, covers to gain recognition. She's being authentic. She is being her. In the same way that you say you're coming from a place of love, but you've got all these wicked tools that you can use for creating, right? So it's like you're not trying to, although the statue of David was very important in your artistic evolution, you're not trying to recreate David.
No.
Maybe you've done something with it. I don't know.
Yes,
but, you're not harping on it.
No.
You're not, that's the thing I think is where the line between us having confidence as creative people, this is like not even thinking necessarily of teaching at this point, that what we have to offer to the world that AI never will have is spontaneity and insight into, like you can be profiled by AI and they'll send you ads based on what they think you do, right? I find those things ridiculous, and they're wrong 90% of the time. I get Korean dating site apps coming up now.
Oh my God!
What's with that?
No, I don't get those.
But I think that's the thing that like people need to know is that like, somebody who started out in business administration, was that what you said you started out your studies?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
can pivot and land on the most awesome career in the arts. And
well, here's a beautiful story, Mark. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. That's what it's all about.
In one of my classes, a day class, and filled with 17, 18-year-olds. In comes this guy who's older than I and is a student. And he goes through the course very adaptable and kind and generous. And he graduates from my class. 8 years later, I see him slogging around the hallways of Vanier. And I go, Richard, how you doing? He says, good. I said, do you come to visit? He says, no. I said, what's the story? He says, I got a job here. I'm a professor.
Nice. In what?
So well, in history.
Okay.
But the story is that he was like 38. He was just sick and tired of his job. He got a master's degree at 38, so like he's 40, whatever, and recreated himself and became a professor.
That's awesome.
At that age.
Yeah.
So that's the story, is that even at that age,
right,
you can reassess.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that COVID did particularly a nasty job to, was my industry anyways, which at the time was 50% teaching and 50% performance of music.
Right.
And both of them were stopped dead in their tracks. Luckily, I had a little bit of opportunity to teach virtually on this same platform. We're using Zoom right now.
Yeah.
And, it leads you to doubt yourself a lot, and it's like, at some point I was thinking, okay, if this is the end of my musical / teaching career, what am I going to do? The only thing I could come up with was, I want to cook. I love cooking. So, did you have a plan B? Did you, in those moments where you're like, oh my God, I suck at this. What am I going to do? I need a day job.
I think young artists should have a plan B.
Yeah.
I think, no, my plan B, it was getting out of business administration and, taking plan B for a ride. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of my students came up to me and said, well, Roger, do you think I have enough talent to pursue? And, even though the reason I got into into Concordia and fine arts is that I took a YMCA course before, when I came back from Europe, and it was like an 8-week thing, and I did it. And then I actually went to the professor. I said, I think I want to change. I think I want to go into the arts. Do I have enough talent? And he said, yes.
Wow.
But, okay, he said yes. That's taking a big risk. That's taking a huge. So I never did it. I never said, yes, you have enough time, because, it's.
So what do you say in that situation?
I say to them, what I did say to them is, pursue it with all the gusto and all the energy and the fire in the belly that you need, and know that you have to take 2 jobs, and know that only 5% of actors make a living, and pursue it for 10 years. At the 10-year stage, you're 17, you're going to be 27. If you see that it's too much of a slog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think, I mean, everybody says don't give up. Pursue your dream to the end. Believe in yourself. Yeah, but at one point, it could be toxic.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a little toxic when you're, pursuing a goal and failing and taking two steps backwards and because success, after 10 years you should know,
Yeah.
Is the marketplace ready for someone like me? If not, you're 27, you can go
Yeah.
back, you can find another area of expertise, you know or look within the realm of theater or film where you wanted to be an actor, but you've made connections with a sound department or set design or maybe go into that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Don't hold on to something that you see is negotiable. But
Yeah.
anyway, I mean that's
Yeah.
it goes against the grain of pursue your dream, don't give up,
Right.
which is the message most people, with the Oscar, when they
Yeah.
receive the Oscar, a lot of them say, don't give up.
Yep.
I say, yeah, but you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and that's the human factor that is always going to be needed. And if we bring the COVID thing back in, it's like, what did people go to when they didn't have their jobs to do?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Everybody was posting about old movies that they were rewatching and old music that they'd forgotten about, and they're doing virtual tours of museums from around the world. It's like people went to the arts.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
Kids played video games, but kids are kids. They're going to do kid stuff, right?
Yeah.
But for the people who, kids were impacted. There's no doubt about that. But I think the overall psychological impact on people that, lost their career. I know people that lost their business. They lost a 20, 30-year-old family business, gone, vaporized. And they had no choice but to reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
And some of them were people my own age.
Yeah.
So they were into their 50s. They're not 27 looking to reinvent themselves.
Right.
Yeah, so it was tough that way for a lot of people, but I think the spontaneity and the creativity of humans, and our I guess you could say our perspicacity and willingness to pursue when things seem pretty ominous and impossible.
Right.
The arts is always, anything artistic, anything creative is always going to find its listener, its viewer, its witness, and that's what we're doing. That's what we got to keep on doing. We're not going to do it because we want to get rich. We do it because we have to, and other people seek out what we do because they have to.
Right. And I to add to that, and to go back to really what my passion is the process of life, which is how do you remain nimble? How do you remain nimble enough to see when opportunity presents itself, or an artistic idea? How does it come to life? And again, the honing of the still mind, the quiet mind, the mind that only observes, really, only intensely listens and observes without judgment, is the way to be as nimble and as improvisational and as clear and lucid as possible. And that's what I want to relay to aspiring artists and emerging artists is don't try to to fit in.
That's key.
Yeah, don't try to fit in, because a lot of, look, monetizing for a lot of people is very important, and a lot of people.
It's legitimizing. It makes you think that you're doing it right if you make money at it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can.
That's what they call the difference between an amateur and a professional, is that if you make money, you're a professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my definition of those two is if you're a procrastinator, and a lot of us are, but if you haven't been able, to kind of like manage that, you're an amateur. You're an amateur.
That's a very
if
good
you're
way of putting
able
it.
to kick your own ass out of that procrastination and do the deeds that need to be done, then you become a professional.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how how deep is your procrastination.
And to go back a little bit to your point about how do you remain nimble. I think something, you mentioned that you're retired now. So I think from what I've seen in certain people is when they retire, they don't know what to do now that they don't have their job anymore. And they settle into things like, I don't know, watching too much TV or they start drinking too much, or, sometimes they'll take up a hobby. I have quite a few adult students who come to start to learn music. And say it's on their, I had a lady start last year. She was 86 years old. She'd always wanted to play ukulele.
Oh, yeah.
And so now she's in her second year of full on stuff. And we're doing, songs that were popular when she was a kid.
Right. Brother, can you spare a dime?
Yeah. And
Blackbird.
And it's like, the willingness to use your free time to explore yourself.
Yeah.
When you speak about the quiet mind, I mean, that's something that not a lot of people have these days, especially with the prevalence and the ease of finding distractions on your devices. You don't have to think much anymore. You can go through Pinterest and find other people finding the things that you'd like to do. And for some people, that's enough. And they put a bookmark on there, and they'll go back and they'll share it on their Facebook page or something, but they never end up doing it. And it's awesome. For me, when you're talking about being retired now, and I see this constant output of words and images.
These are the best years of my life.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
And how long have you been retired for then?
3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I often say that as a musician, I'm on the instead of the Freedom 55, I'm on the Freedom 95 plan. So, 3 years. That's great.
Yeah. And, I'm lucky. I mean, I have a humble pension from the college and the government pension, and it sustains me. I've got my big ass flat screen. I've got a nice stereo system. I got my headphones. I got, I've discovered a new system of culinary activity, because I went to the doctor, and I've had like diabetes 2 for the last 15 years. It just happened, and I took the pills and stuff, and I went to the doctor about 6 months more, and she says, "Oh, I might have to put you on Ozempic." I said, "Oh no, I got home. I said, no way, I'm taking that, And I went on a 9-week shift in habit breaking, and I lost 28 pounds in 9 weeks. By cutting carbs and intermittent dieting and the whole gamut. And here's another thing, is that YouTube is an amazing source of information.
It is.
It really is. I mean, so I just followed the doctors from YouTube.
Yep.
and kind of listened to some influencers and compared some with others, and so now my trips to the kitchen are simplified because I have my basic needs taken care of, high protein and high fat, no carbs.
There you go. It's been the thing for so long that all of those things are bad for you. And you see like so many like miracle stories now of people going to like a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And keto, to a lesser extent. But, people that just eat meat and water, like red meat and water and salt. And their life changes. And it's like, on some level, at one point, we were carnivores.
Yeah.
And it's not that
the thing is how sustainable is that?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's like, I saw this research thing now about like how the main composition of fuel for your brain is cholesterol.
Yeah.
And all these diets that say cholesterol is bad, cut out cholesterol, and then Alzheimer's starts to come up, and it's like,
Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing to cook? What are you making for supper tonight?
Recently I found a way to make the perfect sauce for curried lamb.
Ooh.
Because every time I go to an Indian restaurant, I order curried lamb. And that sauce is the thing that really ignites me. So I found it on Amazon, and that's what I've done. But I do have a specialty, though, and it's a soup specialized in Egypt. It's one of their favorite meal, and it's made from jute mellow, the jute mellow leaf, and it's called moheya, and it's just chock full of nutrients and incredible stuff. I'm gonna send you a link to it.
Yeah, please do.
And you can find the soup at specialty stores, and in your area, specialty.
Not around here.
No. Oh, right. Where are you exactly? Oh,
I'm just north of Lindsay.
Okay.
Farm country in Ontario. One of the farm countries.
I was going to bring up the big city boy here.
Oh yeah, this is a big moment for me getting to talk to a city guy. Yeah. I think cooking is one of those things too. It's like, if I meet somebody and the topic of dogs come up and they go, "Oh, I hate dogs," I'm like, "All right, you're out of my life." And then finding people that don't cook.
Right.
I knew a fella once. I was talking to him at the gym. Right. A guy that you see every once in a while and you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" Whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, you're losing some weight. This looks good. I said, "Did you change your diet too?" And he says, "No, I just eat whatever the wife gives me." I said, "What, you don't change what you cook?" He says, "I haven't been in the kitchen in 25 years. I couldn't boil water if I had to."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?" Like, for me, it's like, I can't, when we talk about like the artistic mind needing so much stimulus, right?
Right.
Like for me, I don't. So, like, in the winter, I concentrate on music because this room I'm in my attic is heated and my glass studio is not. So, hot solder and cold glass in the winter don't mix. So,
right.
but between, like, music and writing and glass and cooking, I don't think I could prioritize one. If somebody said, if you had to take one of your passions and eliminate it, which one would it be? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
It's just, I can't.
No. Well, you've got a curious mind, and you've developed that, and since the moment you discovered that you've been conditioned, and you've got to get out of that conditioning.
Yeah.
I think that's most artists come to a rebirth at the moment, at that moment when they realize my parents, my religion, my school system, everybody conspired to develop a certain type of human.
That ain't
and I recognize that.
Yeah.
And I choose to change that.
Yeah. That was a big moment for me. And that was a podcast episode that I made. And I believe I called it Who Do You Think You Are?
Uh-huh.
And it was...
Oh, yeah, I think I heard that, yeah.
It came to me like maybe 5 years ago when I sat down with myself while I think I was just when I started getting back into doing glass in the spring. And I said to myself, I'm an artist. And that was a hard thing for me to say because I know that it's like, you know, you and I and many other people that do art, anything creative, we have an insider's view and we don't need outside validation for our motivations, right? But, you know, when you say to yourself, I am whatever,
right.
You know, you talk about that reinforcement. You know, if you keep saying that you're not worthy, eventually you will not be worthy.
Right.
If you keep saying...
have to, you know, look, historically, Mark, of course, there's so many outstanding, you mentioned Mozart, outstanding artists. And sometimes in our youth and our development, we go, how am I ever going to reach that standard of calling myself an artist? But of course, there's no way. You have to develop your passion, which is part of the cycle to reach the point where you say, what is an artist? An artist is someone that brings forth their belief systems, their subconscious, their desires, emotions, and connects and shares it with others. And that's it. And, you know, if we can share, and that's the beauty of social media, is that we share it all the time.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
And talking about sharing, and just to mention this, is how things, you know, so I'm not a particular spiritual person, but I do believe that if you put out enough information to the universe, enough desire, enough fire in the belly and need to do, the universe provides. And only if you are, of course, aware enough to take in the cues and the triggers and all that, right? So the universe provided something for me about 4 weeks, 6 weeks ago. A friend, a Facebook friend, contacted me and said another friend of hers has written a book and she's looking for an artist to do her cover. And she didn't correspond with me for another 2 weeks or so, and then she did, and I got in contact with the writer. And to make a long story short, I provided her with a cover to her book that she loved, her publisher loved, everybody loved, apparently. All her friends, everybody loved. So
nice.
And then I said, well, you know, why don't you talk me up to your publisher? Another long story short is that the publisher contacted me, and I will be soon be published.
What will be published?
So I will.
Your written work.
Well, it's a book, mostly of images.
Nice.
And when you say that my work, what did you call the feeling that you have about my work?
I said it's bleak on the surface.
Bleak. Yeah, some of it is, but I consider myself a stylist, meaning, and that's how I'm going to break up my chapters, is that, yes, I do kind of German expressionism, which is bleak. And then I do kind of like...
Germans express themselves?
Yeah, there's such a thing as German expressionism. Yeah. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, if you know that film, or
no, I don't.
Nosferatu.
Yeah.
That's German expressionism.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I also do very modern, very stylistic stuff. I do abstracts, very kind of like colorful stuff. So basically, I do a lot, and one of the things that I've always wondered about is that, Roger, I think you should stick with one thing. Most artists are known for one thing.
Yeah.
Like Picasso went from classical painting and beautiful kind of like
Right.
blue periods and stuff to this crazy stuff, and just like the world burst, and he made millions of bucks on this Cubist thing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he invented. So, Roger, should you try to find? No, but no, that's who I am. I'm a wanderer, and you kind of like interested in a lot of things. Just like theater, I was interested in Shakespeare as well as Dada, crazy exploratory plays and stuff like that. So. Yeah, so I'm going to be published. What a great thing to have.
And when can we expect to see this?
Well, I had a burst of creativity once I heard it, and I wrote my first chapter, which is kind of an abridged uh, story of my life.
It's only 185 pages. It starts when I was born in Cairo.
How I did it, yeah. No, the way I did it is that I did it kind of hitting on certain points in my life, but numbering each point, and then saying at the end, I did it, as abridged as possible. I don't want to bore you to death. So I numbered them all. So if you really want to know the intricacies and the nuances of that story, in the back of the book, I've numbered all these sequences and gone into it deeper.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so now I'm in the stage of picking and choosing the 3 chapters of the different styles of images that I do, and that to me is like, oh, it's so difficult to choose. I've got thousands of images, and to choose the most aesthetically interesting ones. Anyway,
Yeah. So is it like coffee table book format we're looking at here?
I don't know how it's going to turn out. That's going to be a discussion for later, right? I mean, I'm just putting it together, and probably it'll be a fairly large size book.
That's really awesome. That's super. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. So that's how the universe kind of like brings serendipitous moments.
And it's only the people that don't think of themselves as part of a whole, a greater whole,
right,
that can really be, skeptical and cynical about that and say, it's not true. It's like, all right, okay, you go on with your day job and I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you know that you're part of a greater whole, WHOLE. Then those things, I think, they're on their way to you. What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for our, a certain level of commitment from us? Like, what is the thing in us that triggers the universe to respond? You can't just say, okay, I want to go downstairs and I want all the dishes to be done and, supper to be on the table. That's not that kind of thing. It's like, there's got to be something, within us that lets the universe know that we are indeed ready.
Well, it's sometimes the eureka moment that gives birth to an idea, and the idea is the fuel that gets you activated in whatever it is. If you're going to go research it, if you're going to go to a bookstore and peruse and check it out, the universe is going to highlight a certain book. Let's say what I'm saying is that, and that, like, in my experience, that book, when I had my own theater, I found that book and I bought 12 copies of it because it was at a used bookstore at $2 each, and I brought it to the cast, and we did it. And not only did we do it, but opening night, I was putting up the sign for the presentation of this adaptation, and this guy is walking, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm saying, "I'm putting up." He says, "I wrote the introduction to that book."
And which book is this? What's it called?
Oh, it was called. I don't remember what it was called, but the play was called Tilly's Fractured Romance, which is an adaptation of a Charlie Chaplin thing,
Oh,
and it was
wow.
written by a jazz musician from New York. Who was kind of off the wall and wrote this play about God and Noah. God and Noah, Noah's conversation with God. So
Wow.
when's the flood happening? Like really New York kind of
Right. Yeah.
slang and
That's cool.
yeah.
That's really cool.
So yeah, so that's what I believe, and that's what I think, and that's what I tell students is just be open and await for eureka moments. Build up ideas over and over, and there's no bad ideas. Just keep on
Yeah.
generating, and once something gives hold, then you'll meet someone that's going to give you advice or give you their card or
Mhm.
guide you somewhere to where another event will happen.
Yeah. And that's one of the constants that I find in talking with other artists is that we keep logs of things, even though we're not maybe as dedicated journalists as we'd like to be. On my phone, I've got well over 100 voice recordings that I've had since the iPhone 3G, right? They just keep coming back onto the phone
Yeah,
from the cloud, right? And
yeah,
it's like one of these days I'm going to do something with it. And,
right.
and it's that thing about the artist's eye and ear and heart and mind being able to take a tiny little detail of something and turn it into something else. I found even like misunderstood lyrics are a great inspiration because I can hear something and then think, what was that? And then it gets stuck in your head and then your brain starts working on it.
Yeah,
And, in another, 15 minutes or 15 days, you've got another piece of music coming out based on something that you heard wrong.
right.
Yeah.
Well, also, the data is were quite interesting because they did kind of cut up poetry. They would cut up phrases, sentences from newspapers and put them together and create a poem.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, so that was a whole movement. It was a whole movement of found and kind of random connections to make, although absurdist commentary, but also very political in a way. And so there's many different forms of art, right? There's conceptual art, there's performance art, there's all sorts of things that people go, oh, what the fuck is this, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's conceptual, right? It's not your everyday Rembrandt. It's a conceptual piece, and not everybody can appreciate it because they haven't escaped the conditioning of judgmentalism, right? I mean, there's so much of that going around.
Mhm. I
But
ca-
appreciation. Look, yeah, you noticed all my art on my wall. I'm noticing all the guitars
yeah.
behind you,
This is
and I'm
most of them.
going, now what is that? Now, it's like when I see wealthy people that have like a garage full of vintage cars, right? Like 30 or 40 of them. I go, okay, so like,
Why?
what is that? Is that a collector? Or is that a person who likes to drive different?
Yeah.
So when I look at the guitars, I go, okay, so is Mark a collector,
I use
or
them.
is every guitar does Does each guitar trigger something new in you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a total fanboy of a company named Godin from Quebec.
Yeah.
And this lovely one here, it's a bright royal blue.
Yeah.
That was a dream guitar of mine since probably the early 90s. And it was well out of my range of affordability. When I had kids and, the days of kids and mortgage and all the rest of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And just in casual conversation with a fella that I know at the grocery store, he said, we started talking about dream guitars. And I said, yeah, this is mine. He says, well, I've got one that I've been thinking of selling. And I'm like,
no shit.
The fuck? So I've
Talk about the universe. Talk about the universe providing.
Yeah, okay, of all of the guitars that I have here that I can see on the wall behind me, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 Godin guitars. And to me, they all elicit a different kind of response.
Yeah.
They make me want to do something differently. Just like when you pick up a paintbrush, I would imagine it will make you want to do something differently than if you pick up a different paintbrush.
Sure.
And... yeah, so, all the instruments, they do different things and they each do their own thing.
Wow.
But I've been fortunate enough that in my life, I've only ever had to buy, in my life, from my first real good instrument that I bought, I think I've bought 3 or 4 instruments new. And when you talk about the universe delivering, if you have it in your mind long enough, there's this little baby hanging on my wall here, and that just, it's like whenever I need something, inspirational music wise, I don't need, I got a piano downstairs. I've got apps on my phone that do music stuff. And it's like, no, I just want to sit down with that instrument right there. With my own little bear paw logo on it that I have made. Yeah. And it's going to make me come up with something.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? I don't know. I don't question it. Who am I to question it?
What's the use? There's no use in questioning it.
If I have an itch and I need to scratch it, that's what I scratch it with.
Yeah. Now I know you're in a band as well. So I mean, do you use an assortment of guitars when you're in the band?
Typically just that first one there, and then the third one back is a black Telecaster. The great thing about this one in the front here, and Godin revolutionized this, is it has what's called synth access. So it has a separate transducer on it with a 13-pin cable that I can plug into a synthesizer. Yeah. So that I can play the synthesizer tones with my guitar. Nice. So I can play it as... It has an acoustic guitar pickup in it, so it emulates an acoustic. I can play acoustic, electric, and synthesizer at the same time with the same instrument. Wow. So when you talk about a creative push, it's like I did a cover of Leonard Cohen's "I'm Your Man."
Oh, I love that song. Oh my God. Yeah.
And I was, I had this Valentine's gig coming up once, and I was like, this was new to me at the time. But it's I think it's a 1995 guitar, and it is in mint condition. It came to me in mint condition. Yeah. So I was putting together a set list, and I was trying to think of appropriate Valentine's songs. So "I'm Your Man" came up, and then I always like to put a little bit of a gypsy swing to things. And I thought, how can I do that? So in this synthesizer, there's a looper built in. Mm-hmm. So I was able to create a loop of the background and do an accordion / clarinet solo. The accordion player and the clarinet, which were operated by me tipping my foot backwards and forwards on the effect pedal. Wow. And then people were looking around going, it's like, what's going on here? Yeah. But it's just like that, the level of creativity that lets me have. It's not like I don't have that level of creativity, but this is the tool that lets me express it without having to have, hire other musicians to play. Yeah. Not that I don't like it, but I mean, but it's just like sometimes you get a really special tool and you're like, oh, how did I get by without this? Exactly. And every time I pick that guitar up, sometimes I'll take it into my teaching studio. Mm-hmm. And, kids will see that and they go like, oh my God, what is that? Because it's just the sexiest color of striped
Wow.
blue maple,
Yeah.
right? And there's all buttons and switches. And then, I know that if I can describe that to an aspiring musician and then say, here, play it. And they're like, I'm like, do it. Do it.
Right.
If you look up the price of those things online, they are not inexpensive. And I got it for a total steal. But when I can give that to a kid and let them like feel what it's like to play like somebody's ultimate dream tool for creation. And I don't have it as a status thing. That's not me. I use it. That guitar works for me at least 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And then when you see the look on somebody's face when they can touch that thing that they've only maybe never heard of, or only dreamed of, and then their face lights up and their fire is lit, So
that's a great thing that you're able to teach by example and teach by allowing the novice touch.
Yeah.
An elevated aesthetic without them even, understanding it, just kind of like feeling it.
Yep.
And, storing it in the back of their heads somehow.
They'll never forget it.
Oh, yeah, there's that shit out there that can kind of like make my life, more lucid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's am I a collector? Yeah, but I think I would draw the line.
Oh yeah, that's a secondary. Yeah.
Yeah, I collect that which I want and need and can use. Right. That second guitar, I could give you a whole story on all of them if you'd like sometime.
I'm sure.
That second one, it's like my favorite acoustic guitar is in dire need of some serious surgery right now. It's been through the wars with me. It was my main teaching guitar for probably 25 years. I put at least 6 to 7 hours a day on this guitar. But anyways, so I need to do some recording. I've got some songs that I need to finish, songs that are started, and I needed an acoustic guitar for it. And I have other acoustic guitars, but not that one. And that came into the music store on consignment. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This was like 3 days after I put it out, oh God, I can't afford the repair on this thing because it's big. It's a major surgery, right? I said, I can't afford the repair on this. And there this thing is sitting on the floor of the mute. And I just walked up to it and I said, all right. I just picked it up and it was like,
I'll take it.
Yeah. And that's another Godin. They're so amazing.
It just happened to be a Godin.
It just happened to be. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're coming on 2 hours now. We've touched on a lot of really cool and fun things. I don't know if anybody's still listening by now, but if you are, thank you. So what do you think? Any other things you want to touch on or bring up or express before we draw to a close soon?
Okay, I'm just going to make a comment on your comment about the images behind me that are part of my show. And I was saying I have had a lot of shows, but most of the shows have been to show my diversity in styles, right? So there was never really a thematic thread. I sold, things that people liked, and But this show was definitely a thematic. My first thematic show, where I showed 8 large pieces of women. Embedded or somehow blended in with trees and nature, and it was basically my comment on my respect for humanity, women in their plight to be acknowledged, and my disdain for the culture of toxic oh my God,
Masculinity.
masculinity. So yeah, and so I'm very proud of that, and
It's a beautiful tribute from what I've seen.
yeah,
Maybe if you feel like it, you could make a little slideshow that I could put in with the audio of this, and people can click that and have a look at, another link in the comments I can put in there.
Sure.
Or if you have a link to something already established,
I think I might.
I'd be happy to include that in there, because I mean, it's the talks about art and creativity are great, but when we're talking about photographic art, I mean, conceptually you can probably catch some of what Roger's saying, but when you see it, it's a whole other level of experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well,
it was a pleasure.
Cool. Should we do this again tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be an ongoing thing, because we are collaborators.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think we both have the personalities and it takes a certain personality to be able to collaborate, because I've done it with a lot of people, and it's a very, very difficult thing.
It's forced on sometimes. It's like forcing the muse.
Yeah.
You don't force the muse. She's going to whip your ass if you try to do it.
Yeah. So we've collaborated on two things. They've been kind of seamless.
Yeah.
They've been just, I think
there's a vibe there.
Yeah, there's a vibe. Yeah.
That's one thing that
to your podcast, I think we both have a kind of similar worldview, a similar understanding of the importance of art as a healing factor.
Absolutely.
In our consciousness, and we can, I think it's important to continue to promote that.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, we're coming on to who knows what's going to be happening politically or economically. And I think we are going to need art as a refuge again.
Absolutely.
Not that it never was, but I mean, I think people are just going to be like so frazzled. And I'm not being like, I'm not trying to be a harbinger of doom or anything like that, but I think there is a level of dissatisfaction that a lot of people are feeling. And no matter, which way you vote or whatever, you're always going to be pissed off. So there's always somebody to blame. But I think we can maybe, offer a bit of an evening.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
stabilization.
We've both had long lives, mine longer than yours, but even through all the different machinations of political leaders in my lifetime, some that I've vehemently opposed and some that I've felt comfortable with, my life never really changed from one regime to another. Yep. I mean, really, not really, but something that we've never seen before. So that might trigger.
Well, we have seen it before. That's the thing.
Have we?
Well, the first time he was there.
Oh.
And
No, but the first time he was there were guardrails.
Yeah.
There were people that were saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And, really from seeing his picks for cabinet positions, it's all a bunch of people that will not only agree, but reinforce his craziness.
That's why they establish cabinets, right? Nobody's going to bring in people that disagree with them. But, the cheerleaders, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they are. That's what they should be called instead of the cabinet or the Senate. Cheerleaders. All right, mon ami, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
I will get to the editing process in a day or so when the first fervor of the work week calms down tomorrow.
Okay.
And I look forward to seeing your stuff every day and hopefully working on some more stuff together.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
All
much.
right.